Hello and welcome to Right Sports Talk. My name is Zach. First off, I'd like to apologize for getting this video out so late, so close to the first game of the week for predictions. I have been under the weather. It's been a little difficult for me to find time to record where I've been feeling not like complete garbage. So, so let's get into this. Week 13, I went 13-3 with my predictions, giving me a overall record of 126 and 69. And I do want to give a quick shout out to my wife, who also does do predictions against each other. And she had a perfect week in week 13, going 16-0 with her picks. So I give her a quick little shout out for that. But now let's get into week 14. Week 14 kicks off Thursday night game between the Green Bay Packers, who are 9-3, and the Detroit Lions, who are 11-1. Both these teams coming off victories on Thanksgiving, the Lions beating the Bears, and the Packers beating the Miami Dolphins. The Packers have been playing very good football. Jordan Love has been playing very well the past few weeks, not turning the ball over. And Josh Jacobs has been very good running the ball. Their defense has been very good, especially the defense has been very good at getting turnovers. And the Detroit Lions, their offense is still running really great, but they are suffering some injuries defensively, which Malcolm Rodriguez, one of the linebackers, had to go on IR for, I believe it was a torn ACL. They signed Jamal Adams, a veteran safety, to the practice squad. And was working out. He didn't work out with the linebackers because they're so thin there. So I think for that reasons, the Lions being so banged up, and the fact that they have been playing very close games past week, especially against the Bears, I am going to pick the Packers to win this game. The Packers have been playing their best football the past few weeks against the 49ers and the Miami Dolphins. And the Detroit Lions have they're still playing very good, but they're having more missteps. Sorry. More missteps and miscues and stuff going wrong. And now being down a bunch with injury. Having just a bunch of injuries right now. I do think the Green Bay Packers get the victory here. Now moving on to Sunday. First up, you have an AFC South battle between the Jacksonville Jaguars, who are 2-10, and the Tennessee Titans, who are 3-9. The Jaguars coming off of a loss to the Houston Texans. They will be without Trevor Lawrence in this game. He got knocked out of the Texans game with a concussion and was placed on IR. He's also going to need shoulder surgery, so he's done for the rest of the season. And the Tennessee Titans are coming off a loss to the Washington Commanders, in which they started very slow. They started to look good in the second half, but it just wasn't enough. My pick for this game is going to be the Titans. They have a very good run game with Tony Pollard, a very good defense. I think they'll match up very well against the Jacksonville Jaguars, who once again looks like going to be starting Mac Jones at quarterback. And I just can't trust an offense that's led by Mac Jones. Also, their defense has not been the best for Jacksonville. I think as long as Will Levis, who has been playing very good the past few weeks, and hang on to the football and not have a bunch of turnovers, which he has been very good at controlling his turnovers the past few weeks, if that continues, I think that the Tennessee Titans do get the victory here against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Next up, you have the New York Jets, who are 3-9, taking on the Miami Dolphins, who are 5-7. The Jets are coming off of a loss to the Seattle Seahawks, in which the Seahawks special teams tried to give them this game. The Seahawks special teams fumbled on kick return. They gave up kick return touchdown. But the Jets Aaron Rodgers wanted to throw the ball away, throw the game away, threw a pick six to a defensive lineman that went 92 yards to the house. Their offense just could not get clicking. They continue to struggle on offense. Miami Dolphins coming off of a loss to the Green Bay Packers on Thanksgiving. It was in the snow, it was in the cold, which is not Miami's strong suit. This game going to be in Miami, in sunny Florida. So I do think the Dolphins get the win here. I think that their offense should be able to stay on track especially in the warm weather, and this against this Jets defense that has really, and team as a whole, has really given up hope on the season. This Jets offense still looks very lackluster. I thought they would get it together as the season went on. That has not looked like the case. Aaron Rodgers and Davante Adams are still playing very well together, but everything else on that offense is very inconsistent. Whether it's Aaron Rodgers trying to get to Garrett Wilson or Breece Hall not playing very well from week to week, where he's will have 1 week where he's really good and then 1 week where he's just non-existent in the offense. Plus, the Miami defense is still a very good unit, so I do think that the Dolphins get the win here. Next up, you have the Atlanta Falcons, who are 6-6, taking on the Minnesota Vikings, who are 10-2. The Falcons coming off of a loss to the Los Angeles Chargers, in which they turned the ball over a lot offensively. Kirk Cousins threw multiple interceptions, and he has just thrown a bunch of interceptions over the past few weeks. He has not looked anything like the quarterback he was for the first half of the season. And defensively, they actually played well against the Chargers. I don't know if that has more to say about how the Chargers were playing or how Atlanta was playing in that game. And for the Minnesota Vikings, they're coming off of a victory over the Arizona Cardinals, in which the Cardinals led for most of that game, and the Vikings were able to have a late fourth quarter drive and get the touchdown that gave them the lead, and ultimately their defense shut down that Arizona offense, and they wound up being able to pull out the victory. My pick for this game is going to be the Minnesota Vikings. I just think they've been playing way more consistently than the Falcons have been this year. I think their defense should be able to get after Kirk Cousins. I don't know how effective that Atlanta pass rush is going to be against Sam Darnold, who's been playing very well, and he's going to be able to just manage this game. I think their defense is really going to pull it together for them, so I do think the Minnesota Vikings get the victory. Next up, you have the New Orleans Saints, who are 4-8, taking on the New York Giants, who are 2-10. The Saints coming off of a loss to the Rams, and the Giants coming off of a loss to the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. The Saints had a 2-game win streak under their interim head coach. That came to an end against the Rams. Offensively, they've lost Taysom Hill, their kind of switch army knife, do-it-all offensive player for the season due to a knee injury. But I do think that this offense should still be able to perform well against this Giants defense. So I am going to pick the Saints in this game. I think that Derek Carr should have a good game, and Alvin Kamara especially should have a very good game against this Giants defense. I think this might be a bit of a high-scoring game because both of these defenses aren't all that great. The Saints should be able to force Drew Lock to get some turnovers, force Drew Lock to give up the football and get some turnovers, much like the Cowboys defense did against this New York Giants team. I think that could be the big difference in this game. So I do think the Saints get the win here. Next up, you have the Carolina Panthers, who are 3-9, taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, who are 10-2. The Panthers coming off of an overtime loss to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and the Philadelphia Eagles coming off of a victory to the Baltimore Ravens this past week. I do think the Eagles are the better team. They will get the win here. In fact, on paper they are better. They have played much better than the Panthers have all season. But I do want to give a quick shout out to the Panthers. They have played very competitive football the past few weeks, whether it was against the Buccaneers, forcing them into overtime, against the Chiefs, getting a very close, having a very close loss to them, in which it was only a 3-point game at the end of it. Before that, beating the Giants. So they've been playing very competitive and playing very close games since Bryce Young has been back as their starting quarterback. So I just wanted to give them a quick shout out for how they've kind of turned their performance around since the beginning of the season. But I do think that the Philadelphia Eagles are just too overpowered. Saquon Barkley should be able to run all over this defense. Defensively for the Eagles, Cooper DeJean and Quinn Mitchell should be able to shut down this passing game for the Panthers. So I do think the Philadelphia Eagles are just too good of a team, and they should get the victory here against the Panthers. Next up, you have the Cleveland Browns, who are 3-9, taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers, who are 9-3. The Browns coming off of a loss to the Denver Broncos on Monday night, in which you got the embodiment of the Jameis Winston experience at quarterback, which he threw for almost 500 yards, and he threw for 4 touchdowns, but he also threw 3 interceptions, 2 of which got returned for touchdowns, and that wound up being the big difference in their loss, as it was a very close loss. The Pittsburgh Steelers coming off a victory over the Cincinnati Bengals, which was a very high-scoring game. Which, the Steelers offense was just able to do more, was able to do better against the Bengals defense. The Bengals offense was able to do against the Steelers, and they got a close, high-scoring victory. These two teams played each other a couple of weeks ago in a snow game, in which it was a very close win for the Cleveland Browns. But I am going to pick the Steelers to get the win here. The game is in Pittsburgh, and it's an AFC North battle, so weird stuff happens. But I don't really see the Steelers losing twice to the Cleveland Browns. I don't know how well Jameis Winston is going to play, what version of Jameis Winston we're going to get, if it's the one that throws for 500 yards and 4 touchdowns, or if it's the one that's he was going to go out and throw 1 touchdown and 3 or 4 interceptions and turn the ball over, and ultimately they lose the game. But I do think that just the Steelers, they've been playing very well. They should be able to run the ball very well, as they have been all season. Russell Wilson's been playing very well. Their defense continues to play well. Their defense played very, very good the last time these two teams played, getting some turnovers. But ultimately, they weren't able to do enough to win the football game. But this time, I do think the Pittsburgh Steelers get the win. Next up, you have the Las Vegas Raiders, who are 2-10, taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who are 6-6. The Raiders are coming off of a very close loss to the Kansas City Chiefs last week, in which they were driving down the field to try and take the lead at the end of the game. Ultimately, wound up falling short on what was possibly a controversial call, but where their center snapped the ball and it was a fumble, and one referee ruled that there was a false start, and then they decided that it was an illegal shift or illegal formation, allowing the Chiefs to decline the penalty and take the ball. But the Raiders shouldn't have really been in a position where they needed to take the lead there. Their kicker missed, I think, 3 kicks in that game. So they've really been struggling in the kicking game. Their defense played pretty well. Aiden O'Connell played very well in that start. And you have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers coming off of an overtime victory over the Carolina Panthers, in which Baker Mayfield struggled, but their run game, especially Bucky Irving, was really able to control the game for them and help get them the win. I am going to pick the Buccaneers to get the win here. I can just trust them more than I trust the Raiders. I expect Bucky Irving to have another very good game against this Raiders defense. I think this could be a bit of a shootout game, because although the Raiders don't have a whole lot of offensive weapons, Brock Bowers and Jacoby Myers have played very well. And Aiden O'Connell he's a good enough quarterback where he can keep you in games, but he's not always going to win you games. So I do think the Buccaneers get the victory here. Next up, you have the Seattle Seahawks, who are 7-5, taking on the Arizona Cardinals, who are 6-6. So this is a very big game, not only because it is an NFC West game, so it's a rivalry game, but also these two teams are competing for their playoff lives, competing for the division. And, a win is huge for either one of these teams. The Seahawks are coming off of their win over the New York Jets. The Arizona Cardinals coming off of their loss to the Minnesota Vikings. These two teams played each other a couple of weeks ago, and the Seahawks got the better of that game in Seattle. This game is being held in Arizona, which is why the biggest reason I think that the Cardinals will get the victory here. I think Arizona's defense played very well the last time these two teams played. The main thing that cost them that game was they couldn't really get the run game going, and Kyler Murray throwing a pick six that ultimately was the big difference maker in that game. So I think hopefully the Cardinals can hang on to the football here. Maybe they can get James Conner going. Also, Seattle, for some reason, just has terrible luck whenever they play in Arizona. So, maybe that'll play a part in this game. If just something won't go Seattle's way. But I do think that the Arizona Cardinals get the victory here. Next up, you have the Buffalo Bills, who are 10-2, taking on the Los Angeles Rams, who are 6-6. The Bills coming off a victory over the San Francisco 49ers. The Rams coming off a victory over the New Orleans Saints. Right now, the Bills look like the best team in the AFC. So I am going to pick them to win this game. Josh Allen is playing fantastic. He had, against the 49ers, a passing touchdown, a rushing touchdown, and a receiving touchdown, which I guess it counts as a receiving touchdown. He threw it to Amari Cooper, who then lateraled it back to him, and he scored a touchdown. So Josh Allen is playing fantastic. James Cook is playing really well. This defense really stepped up against the San Francisco 49ers. Buffalo got Matt Milano, their all-pro linebacker, back from injury. He had, I believe, a torn bicep last season that has caused him to miss most of this year. He came back and played well in a very snowy, bad field condition game. Hopefully he can, show a little bit more in a dome in Los Angeles. And the Rams, they are a very inconsistent team. Offensively, they're still very good, although Kyren Williams has been struggling as of late. And defensively, they're very, very flip-floppy. They'll play well one week and then give up 30 points the next. So, because of how good Buffalo has played lately this season, I do think the Bills get the victory here. Next up, you have the Chicago Bears, who are 4-8, taking on the San Francisco 49ers, who are 5-7. The Bears coming off of a loss on Thanksgiving to the Detroit Lions, in which they were driving down the field to try and win the game at the end. And their first down, around field goal range, Caleb Williams gets sacked. They're trying to hustle back to the line with 30 seconds left. They have a timeout remaining. They're scrambling. Time's running down. They don't call the timeout. They try to just throw a prayer ball to Rome Odunze that doesn't get completed. They run out of time and they lose. The Bears actually fired their head coach, Matt Eberflus, the next day. Because that was just an absolute shambles. They were in absolute shambles at the end of that game. They put themselves in the position to try and win it, and they just couldn't execute. The 49ers, coming off of a loss to the Buffalo Bills last week, not only do they lose to the Bills, they also lost Christian McCaffrey for what looks like the rest of the season with a PCL injury. And their other running back, Jordan Mason, went down with an ankle injury. He's been placed on IR and will miss the next 4 games. So they're down to their rookie, third-string running back, Isaac Guerendo, who has played pretty well when called upon. He's a very athletic, fast runner. He's not, as developed or talented as Jordan Mason or obviously Christian McCaffrey. This team has just continued to be beat up. Nick Bosa is still dealing with injuries. Don't know if he's going to play. Trent Williams and the entire left side of their offensive line had different starters from who the regular starters are due to injury. They lost another defensive lineman this week. They're just beat up and very injured. So I think for that reason, because of how many injuries the Niners are dealing with, and the fact that for some reason after teams fire their coach, they get a boost the very next week, I am going to go with the Chicago Bears to get the victory here. They have been playing well the past few weeks, but have just come up short in games, whether that was a blocked field goal at the end of the game against the Packers to lose it, missing a field goal at the end, or bringing it to overtime against the Minnesota Vikings, ultimately falling up short there, or the debacle that was at the end of the Lions game last week. They're being competitive in games, and hopefully, that coaching change can be what boosts them, and they finally get the win here over the San Francisco 49ers. Now, moving on to Sunday Night Football, you have an AFC West battle between the Los Angeles Chargers, who are 8-4, taking on the Kansas City Chiefs, who are 11-1. The Chargers coming off of their win over the Atlanta Falcons. The Chiefs coming off of their win, their very close win over the Vegas Raiders. These two teams played each other earlier in the season, and it was also a close game. I do think that the Chargers get the victory here. I think that Justin Herbert and his offense have been playing very well, even though they don't have J.K. Dobbins. Gus Edwards is still a very good power back, short yardage back, goal line back, and they have the rookie Kamani Vidal, who they can bring out in passing situations or use him as a change of pace runner. And they have a defense that is performing very well. And the Kansas City Chiefs they can't keep getting away with these super close games. They have been struggling a little bit offensively. They did get Isaiah Pacheco back from his injury last week, and Pacheco played well in his limited role. Their defense hasn't really been as effective as it had been earlier in the season. So I do think this one could still be a very close game. It's a rivalry game, so it could easily go either way. But I do think that some of that luck starts to run out for the Kansas City Chiefs, and the Chargers get the win here. Now, finally, on Monday Night Football, you have the Cincinnati Bengals, who are 4-8, taking on the Dallas Cowboys, who are 5-7. The Bengals are coming off of a loss to the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Dallas Cowboys coming off their victory on Thanksgiving over the New York Giants. The Bengals, their offense has run great this season, but unfortunately for them, their defense has really struggled. They have had 6 games this season in which they have scored at least 33 points. The Bengals are 2-4 in those games because their defense has let them down. But and for the Dallas Cowboys, see, they have Cooper Rush as the starting quarterback, and they also just lost their starting offensive guard, Zach Martin, to a knee injury. He is going to need surgery. He's out for the season. So they once again have to shuffle around their offensive line, which is already not the greatest offensive line from what it had been. Have 2 rookies starting for them. And now you have no longer have that veteran presence of Zach Martin next to Cooper Beebe at center to kind of help guide him as a young player. So I think that the Bengals defense should be able to play very well against this Cowboys offense, this very banged up Cowboys offense. CeeDee Lamb is dealing with, I believe, a shoulder injury. So, even if he plays, I don't know how good he's going to look. And obviously this Bengals offense, I have no concerns about them. I think they're going to be able to put up points. And I think the Bengals are going to be able to play good enough on defense against this banged up Cowboys team. So I do think the Cincinnati Bengals get the victory here. So let me know what you guys think in the comments. Who you think is going to win. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time. See ya.